icons and the legends of our beloved motherland, Ghana. Today, I have with me a very, very special guest, a distinguished personality who has served Ghana in many roles, the longest ever serving district chief executive, 18 years in that role, serving our dear motherland, Ghana, an advisor on local government to the United Nations, and a former minister of state. I am happy to have with me, and I am proud to have for you the one and only Honorable Adjei-Barwuah.
Thank you.
Opinion Kwaba. Now you've looked after yourself.
Good.
Now today we'll be speaking English.
Right.
The reason being,
Right.
I love to speak Akan, as you very
I
well
know.
But we're reaching a worldwide audience, and
Right.
many of them, in fact more of them, even in Ghana, speak English than just one of the main local languages of our 5 key major ethnic groups. So I'd like to start by asking, what is it that drives the Honorable Adjei-Barwuah?
Thank you. Thank you for having me on your show, and it's an honor and a privilege. I believe I'll take a lot from here in our conversation to have you.
No, we will learn from you
in this on this very important morning. Let me first say that I didn't intend to go into the public sector as in politics, but I was driven by the events of the time when I was a student activist, the time during the upheavals with the military regime.
1979?
From that period. As students, we supported General Champong with his policies, but along the line, there was a derailment. So for we as student activists, it's one of the things that we thought should happen was a change. So I became very active in politics with a view that after the change, I go to what took me to the university, which was science. I majored in chemistry. So, but then I was appointed as a district chief executive.
At what age were you appointed as a district chief executive?
I just turned 24.
24? And you were
Exactly.
managing an entire district in Ghana.
Obuasi, you.
Of course,
that's your
a mining area. Yes,
yes, your
that's
home
where,
area.
That's where we own our gold under the
Yes.
foundations of the homes.
So I was appointed to Obuasi as the district. At that time, it was PNDC district secretary, not chief executive.
Yeah.
But in all, what was the motivation to have the Ghana that we all want? Growing up as a child in Tema.
Where you were born and raised.
Yes, I was raised in Tema. I was born in Tema and raised in Tema Community 1 Site 19.
A little birdie whispered into my ear that you went to Oninku, near where the post office is now in Community
Exactly.
1. That's where
I
you
started from
school.
Oninku, and
Yeah.
then George Padmore School was established. It was a
Interesting.
model school.
It won't go private school.
No.
Who called Saito?
Saito. Those days was
Wow.
Saito. George Padmore School was in honor of Nkrumah's best friend and ally in Africa's growth, and the independence struggle and all that, the Black consciousness movement. So George Padmore was established as a model school, and students were selected from various schools in Tema.
The brightest, actually.
Yes. So
Don't be so modest.
I've always
From
been
what
a modest.
I've learned in Tema over the years,
The brightest were paid
students were brought to
to
George
George Padmore. Yes, I happen to be one of those who were selected to go to George Padmore School.
Yeah.
So at P6, my parents had moved to Obuasi. My old man, who was a supervisor at Parkinson Howard, the construction company that built the Tamahabo,
Yeah.
they had finished their
It was a British company, was it?
It was a British company. They had finished their contract, And Ashanti Goldfields needed some equipment and staff of the company. So it took my dad to Obuasi.
What line of work was your dad in at the time?
He was in construction, was a supervisor in engineering, and head of the batching plant, those who were dealing with the concreting and stuff like that.
And what was mommy doing at the time? Managing the home?
She was a trader.
A trader?
She was
doing
doing all,
managing the home?
She was doing everything. She was a trader. She was selling foodstuffs. She was selling cloth. She was running a chop bar, everything.
Mommy was the businesswoman?
Yes, she was.
Interesting.
She was. And it was a very interesting, I still have fond memories of Tema. And we then had to relocate
to
Obuasi. There's one interesting twist to it. My older sister, late, she's late now, was then about 6 years or so, and we left her in Tema.
How come?
He said she's been sent to some relatives who were from Adansi area or something.
Okay. Yeah, that happened a lot back in those days.
And
Tema was a top city. But where did she go?
Community 2.
Oh, I see.
You lived in Community 2?
Oh, well, we had a property in Community 2, but we had property in Community 8, Community 4, Community 7, Community 9. Dad was a businessman.
Anyway,
Yeah.
So she ended up in Mr. Dakwe's house.
We are family.
Yes.
So your sister came to live with our family.
Yes, she came to live with you. No, you see, so that's the background in Tema. And my early experience with politics was with a young pioneer. And we were selected to be members of the Young Pioneer movement. And what I remember very well is about patriotism, nationalism, and all that. We used to converge at the current TMA offices. That place used to be a park, with pavement. That's where we used to converge. And then the library was there, Tema Community 1 Library, and then the pavement. So,
and then later the community center where they had all kinds of parties.
Yes, that's where we used to meet with the young pioneers.
Well, quite a bit about your youth, but I want to ask, as a governance and policy analyst, what are your thoughts on the state of the Republic today?
We are not in a good place. It's quite disturbing, troubling for Ghana as a country that most, especially in the sub-region, the international community was looking up to us as a beacon of democratic governance and good leadership. To find ourselves in this current situation. I'm sure you know that there was a survey by Afrobarometer.
The Afrobarometer report.
Yes, which reflects the situation on the ground, where 9 out of 10 Ghanaians were saying that we're going in the wrong direction. And if you study critically various reports and what we are experiencing, you realize that in terms of governance, we've really undermined all that we've built over the period. Recently, I looked at the Mo Ibrahim report on the situation in the country. Just if you pick just the judiciary, from 2017, when we were ranked in terms of judicial independence, impartiality, and all that, at 95.3. It has dropped to 68.3.
What would you say are the reasons for this?
So they cited control of the judiciary
by the presidency?
By the presidency, external influences, judgments that are perceived to be partial and all that. And so what it means is that the judiciary, which is a pillar of our governance, has become compromised. You can also talk about other institutions which are pillars of the democratic governance, which have been compromised by the executive. And this is worrying.
Now, if this is happening with the judiciary, then we are in a very dreadful place. The reason being, the judiciary is vital for fighting corruption.
Exactly.
You talk to people in the streets and they say this is the worst corruption we have ever seen in Ghana. It's worse than the era of Kalabule.
Right.
That's if they're old enough to have lived in that era.
Right.
They say the prices are crazy, but the income to even go and buy anything in the street is unavailable. The few who are in positions of power and the few who bow down to people in positions of power have access to everything. The majority is suffering. So if we think the judiciary is not up and doing, then nothing is going to change. However, I've heard one of the persons vying to be president of Ghana, I believe your candidate, President Mahama, say he's going to wage a war on corruption. It sounds good, but as somebody close to the team in the NDC, the people that lead in the NDC, or actually somebody who is part of the team that lead in the NDC, how committed are you to those words? Because they say talk is cheap.
Well, there's a strong commitment, and our leader has repeated it over and over again. We reckon that there is so much anger and rage, but people are just waiting to effect that change in leadership. And they would expect, we all know, we are aware, they would expect that all these happenings will be a thing of the past and not for an incoming government led by President Mahama under the NDC to just maintain the status quo.
So let me ask them. President John Dramani Mahama had the opportunity to serve this country as vice president and as president. Now he looks back at his term where people criticized him for not doing well and says the people who have had the last 7.5 to 8 years have done far worse than all the criticisms that were shoved at his door. And for all the things that were said about him, where are the people who are actually taking it to court to prove that they were not lying about him? Now he says, I will fight corruption and make sure all those who have stolen from Ghana will vomit and bring the money back.
Yeah.
But what exactly are the reforms that he's proposing?
Strengthening the institutions that will fight corruption. We have, you know, if you don't hold people to account, it's a natural phenomenon. If people are not accountable, the system is compromised and they are not accountable. Even for those who are not corrupt, will just join the bandwagon.
They say wherever crime pays, crime multiplies.
So that's what is happening. And they see impunity everywhere. And those who otherwise would not have been corrupt are also benefiting from it, either actively or indirectly. But once the leader who is supposed to give direction indicates a strong position on fighting corruption, the appointees will fall in line. And we saw it in his administration where people were investigated, some were put before court. So and he signaled this to those who are looking forward into the future to work with him, that if you fall a victim to corruption, I will not spare you.
In my team's research ahead of my conversation with you, some of the statements we got from some very learned people was President Mahama in his term was never a clearing agent for corruption. Exactly. If anybody did something in his administration, he would have them prosecuted.
Exactly.
And he actually did that. I think he did it with Abuga Pele.
Yes.
He had somebody who said, I want to make $1 million.
It was just a talk.
Sent out, yeah, just a talk sent out. On the other hand, however, President Akufo-Addo seems to step up to defend those who are doing wrong in his government. Like, he would come up to speak for Akunta mining instead of letting maybe the sector minister or the district chief executive speak on it. And he would come up to speak for Cecilia Dapa when the kind of money that was found in her home, if it was found in anybody else's home in Ghana, would be seen as money laundering and they would be arrested. So, if your candidate were to win and to get into government, and we saw a repeat of what is happening in Akufo-Addo's administration, are there systems of redress to ensure that he does not even serve his full term? Because Ghanaians cannot sit and wait for a full term of any presidency. No, if we can see with clarity that people are acting with impunity.
I've always said that when it comes to the two major political parties, NDC and NPP, the attitude of Ghanaians, especially those who occupy moral authority, the traditional leaders, religious leaders, business leaders, civil society organizations, the media, all these strong voices are more accommodating of the MPP than
Why do you say so?
What did John Mahama do for all this allegation of corruption, and incompetence that led to
a confirmed flew out of Ghana?
No, somebody is having a conversation and out of jest says, people who had gone there, asking about unconfirmed. They say, they flew to Burkina, they will come back. It was just in jest. And this became a very big issue to hang around.
But why did to say that? So was his communication team inept as to not ensure that they quash that talk?
No, there's a prejudice. There's a prejudice when it comes to NDC and MPP. There's a prejudice when it comes to, and we must accept that. Recently there was this, my language is always with decorum. I don't even in my private life remember insulting someone or denigrating another person on account of disagreement or anything. That's not my style.
You disagree with others without being disagreeable?
Yes, just state the point. State the point of what present the facts. I'll even say you are thieves. I'll just present the case.
And it will show that you are thieves.
But
if it shows they are thieves, then you've told them
no,
they are thieves.
I have to provide evidence that you are a thief.
Don't go away, because when we come back, we'll be finding out who is Honorable Akwesi Oppong-Fosu's greatest statesman of all time. But right now, we're going to listen to a song from one of his favorite musicians of all times called Dasibri Jamina. Stay with us here on Master of the Game. I am Dakwa, Kwesi Che Dakwa. We'll be right back. CTV, and we're delighted to be united with you on our special program, Master of the Game, for the movers, the shakers, the icons, and the legends. So from what my distinguished guest, Honorable Akwesi Opomfosu, was saying, are Ghanaians kinder to one party and more critical of another? Do Ghanaians just let one party have their way whilst requesting too much of another? In effect, are Ghanaians more kind to the MPP and more critical of the NDC? If so, why?
That's a good one. You see, if you compare, even for the economy, during Muhammad's time, before the change, the various indicators, depreciation has recorded its worst since the last 30 years. According to Bloomberg,
you mean depreciation of this under President Akufo-Addo and the Barfuor administration?
Since they took over the administration.
Okay.
I cited a Bloomberg report.
That is a fact. That is not something we can debate. We all know that to be a fact. Next point.
30 years. Inflation, 40 years, the worst ever. You come to government borrowing, for 50 years, the worst ever. Unemployment, the highest ever in the history of this country. I can go on and on with these indicators.
Well, those who will say, well, we know those points, but isn't it fair to admit that Russia and Ukraine had a war, even though the Ukraine who are being bombed are still producing food for the world?
You see,
I've asked the question and answered it. Oh my God.
Interesting one. You know, the managing director of the IMF, whilst this justification was going on, right in this country, the country director came out and said, these indicators were there before COVID and Ukraine. It's a matter of public record. So why are the leaders, moral authorities in this country not raising the issues? Again, I was on the issue of language. I do not appreciate the use of intemperate language in our politics, the insults and all that. It's not something that I really, even from my party
But that
members.
is something that can be eroded if leadership decides to weed out anybody who is a miscreant. But it looks like the miscreants are being promoted.
We are not doing that in this country,
so
and it's a source of worry.
Promote, you get more of.
But what has been happening is that if it is an attack with those kind of language on a leader of the NDC, that's okay.
No.
Yes, no, I can.
No.
Recently, one of our communicators went on a very reckless and irresponsible attack on former President Kufuor in respect of ill health, which has become part of our politics. You know, there was condemnation from everywhere. But we have had a situation where a leading member of the MPP used President Rawlings' ill health to attack him. Nobody said anything. These are the sort of things I'm talking about. If we say as a country, we have our boundaries.
What is wrong is wrong. What is wrong is wrong.
What is wrong is wrong, yes. It has to apply to all. So that we have a kind of decency in our public discourse. I remember the mayor of London then, Ken Livingstone, made some comments that the UK public did not really, were not comfortable with. He was suspended by his own party.
True.
He was suspended by his own party as a mayor. You know, so we need to have it a kind of a national conversation on what are ethics?
I disagree with you about the national conversation on the ethics. I rather agree with you on the fact that we should be self-regulating within the parties. Because we have too many conversations, we have too many conferences, and we have too many award ceremonies, and too little of the carrot and the stick. You do well, we give you a carrot. You do wrong, we give you the stick. And it should be with the party. If every party will start suspending anybody who will be unnecessarily belligerent and unnecessarily insulting. In fact, there are some people that deserve the insults they get. Because if you're a thief, if you're giving government money to do some work for the government, let's say to build a hospital, and you use the money to take your girlfriend to go on a holiday, calling you a thief is not enough. You should be fed 6 portions of voucher, and you should be flogged in public. We should get to the point where, like in China, if you do wrong, and you take the public funds, you know you will be killed. And in Japan, they will not kill you. You will kill yourself.
Yeah, that's
Ghana,
what should happen.
Too many people are getting away with murder. And then we are saying, let us use temperate language. Should we use temperate language for irresponsible people who are miscreants?
The law must take its course. It doesn't end.
The law must
insults.
take its course, and now people are saying, oh, the judiciary itself is compromised. So which law will take its course? The Sharia law?
It's because people are getting away with impunity because they have political power, and the moral authorities of this country are either compromised or complicit or have decided not to say anything.
But why do we think people who have political power have that much power? Because it is clear in my mind that power is fleeting. Fame is vapor. Money is paper. The ultimate power is truth. And if the truth is revealed that you are harming the nation, and the judiciary will be honest and fair, no matter what power you have, you should be incarcerated.
Yes, and I keep going back to this because given the kind of mindsets we have with power and governance, unless those who are not political actors holding that political power hold those holding political power to account, we will never have the kind of governance system we want.
Interestingly, Sir Jonas spoke recently about a mindset change. And I think we should talk about this mindset change at primary school level.
Exactly.
So that somebody in primary school will understand that even though somebody may be elected or appointed, if they are a fool, they are a fool. There is no argument about that. And that they should be held responsible. And if they will not be accountable, they should be removed. So you're talking about the power of the people. You were in a position where, as district chief executive, before you became district chief executive, we had something we call the assemblies. What has become of the assemblies in Ghana? Aren't they a shadow of themselves, a mere outpost of main government today?
Yeah. The district assembly concept and the following activities that went into the constitutional, legal, and policy frameworks emanated from Jerry Rawlings' slogan of power to the people. I remember following that in '83, he set up the PADIC, Public Administration Restructuring and Decentralization Implementation Committee, that came out with this concept. And it was meant to be self-governing units with a relationship with central government, not for central government to control the local units in terms of what they do. Now, the Common Fund law was passed for assemblies to have the resources. There was also the law passed for the departments in the assemblies to work directly under assemblies and not as central government outposts.
So what happened to the assemblies?
We go along, and then NDC comes, pushes, because I've been in this throughout my career, all the way to head of local government service, where we actually were on almost establishing the composite budget, where the departments of the assembly's budget, which are controlled at the central level by their headquarters, will be segregated to the departments and they become part of the assembly's budget. Such that if you take the roads, the urban roads headquarters in Accra would not prepare a budget through the Ministry of Roads and Highways to the Ministry of Finance for all urban roads covering Ghana. Just prepare your budget for those that are under your purview. The department in the districts, that is urban road department, will prepare a budget for the district.
Because they know what goes on in the district.
Yes, and what are their priorities. We were at that point working on the composite budget to have that done. When we left office, and then everything is now reversed, recentralized.
So you think we're running a system where everybody who becomes president decides to just throw the baby out with the bathwater?
That's the president has such wide powers.
No, wide powers to even throw the good out?
Well, that's
and
why.
Replace it with what's not
So
working?
now where we are, what I always have in mind is that this election is about reclaiming the soul of this country. It's not NDC and PP. So many things have gone wrong. We've reversed a lot of things. We need to get back on track.
Before I come to the subject of who your most favorite statesman ever in the world is, I want to ask you, as a governance and public policy analyst, what are your views on Ghana's procurement law and this thing about procurement just being given to family and friends of people in the presidency or people who kowtow to people at the presidency?
No, the laws are there. Do we allow the laws to work? No. And we are talking about state capture, where I am the president, I have executive powers, and I'll just select someone to do a contract, call the head of procurement, and then give instructions. So we have the laws. We have the laws. We all know.
Having the laws
we
doesn't
all
mean
know
anything
what
if
to
we're
do
not making
right.
the laws work.
We all know.
No, we all don't know. The assumption that everybody knows right from wrong is unacceptable.
With those in office, they know.
You think so?
If it's the masses in the streets, maybe.
You think those in the office, sitting in a
Appointees,
GV vehicle,
they know what is right.
flinging things out of their car onto the motorway,
They
know what is right?
They know.
And they still do that?
They know what is right.
So why
they'll get away with it.
Why are they still in leadership then?
They'll get away with it. No,
Why?
It depends on what people perceive to be their leadership purpose.
Is the black man cursed?
I wouldn't say that. I think that we have a purpose which, according to one of my favorite leadership experts, finite and infinite. The finite is here and now. We want it here and now. So we are so transactional. We prioritize our selfish interests as against the public good, the collective interest. So as against the other countries where they advance, those who go into leadership positions have an infinite mindset.
So you are kind of agreeing with me, but in a very soft language, that the black man seems to act as though we are cursed.
No,
because we are only considering today, the here and now at the tip of our nose, whereas others are considering the generations to come. A good example, what do you think of the water bodies around Obuasi where you grew up after being born and raised in Tema? And what do you think of the contribution of our own leadership to the state of our water, to the point where Bob Marley's song may be the national anthem for most of Africa very soon. In the abundance of water, the fool is thirsty.
You still come back to the here and now. And even though those working in these areas, polluting the water bodies, not even the financiers and those behind it, those who are living in Obuasi or the environs where these things are happening know very well that they are polluting these water bodies and it has an effect on their own health. But because they are gaining something from it today, that's okay for them. The other side is the monetization of politics. You need to have the resources.
A war chest. That's what the language is. You need a war chest.
Yes. And that's one of the avenues.
When did it become one of the avenues?
The illegal mining.
In the PNDC?
No. PNDC, we're not electing. We're not holding elections. We look at people of competence and merit, and you are appointed. But we've gone into elective politics. Initially, it wasn't like that. Then, gradually, it has, insidiously.
So you think it is the political class which is ensuring Galamsey goes on?
Exactly. There's no doubt about it.
And that is both NDC and MPP?
It wasn't that pronounced when I was in government. But suddenly you see it as a kind of normal situation. Normal, we have the power. I think so.
Why more than
the only gold bar TV better any gold one. Recently there was a regional chairman who was displaying gold bars.
You can't him. To me. You can't him.
Displaying gold bars from what we are talking about.
Hey, don't go away because at 11 o'clock we have yet another fantastic interview. A great diplomat, a fine gentleman, an orator, and a great thinker will have with us Barfuor, all the way from Ambassador in the United States. His Excellency will be joining us after serving as ambassador to Japan, to Singapore, and also to the USA. He'll be joining us after 11. But before we go for the break, I want to ask you, there are great thinkers all over the world, but everybody has a selection of statesmen that they really like, that they really admire, and whose thought leadership has influenced their lives. Who are such statesmen for you? And let the last one be your most favorite.
Growing up and reading greatest makers of civilization, those books and all that.
Not everybody knows them. Let's not assume. We're talking to an audience. Yeah, so let's say the names so they can go follow them too.
Quite a number of people made an impression on me, and but I'll just for time's sake mention our own Kwame Nkrumah.
Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. When we come back, more questions for Honorable Akwesi Pomfosu. But now let's hear the voice of Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah.
Freedom fighters, comrades and friends, it is my great pleasure to welcome you to Accra and to this conference of African freedom fighters and supporters of the growing movement for Africa's liberation and unity. It is good for our cause to have a periodic meeting of this kind to examine our position in the great struggle to rid Africa completely and forever of imperialism and its handmaidens, colonialism and neo-colonialism. Africa is rich and not poor. As the great wealth that has been taken out of our continent over 5 centuries of the spoliation and extortion very well proves. Africa has immense actual and potential wealth: gold, diamond, copper, manganese, bauxite, iron ore, uranium, asbestos, chrome, cobalt, a host of other minerals. Our essential agricultural produce have all been drained away by colonialist imperialism. Africa is far from being poor. It is Africans who are poor, not Africa.
Africa is rich and not poor. You heard of Sajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, one of the most erudite leaders, and the man who's voted Man of the Millennium for all of Africa, for all the leaders we've had over the years. This is the man of the millennium. And on that note, I have one major question to ask you to close our interview. Honorable Akwesi Opon-Fosu. With the state of the nation, with free SHS to make more people have access to education, with electricity now available, although sometimes it goes off in certain areas, with food more scarce and more expensive than before, what exactly is the role for Ghana's youth?
We have a situation unprecedented with a massive youth unemployment. And looking at the manifesto pledges and John Mohammed's own track record, for instance, on the issue of Dumso. This started in the 90s. These power outages, I remember very well, started in the 90s.
And nobody fixed it.
It wasn't fixed. We just wait, and always, there was a time that we were just monitoring the water levels.
Hoping and praying
that it will give us the required maximum level for power to run across the country. During his time, he said, no, this has been a perennial issue. I will fix it. I'm taking responsibility. When people were accusing him, I said, well, it's a great leader who takes responsibility for a problem that he has not caused. I'm the leader, but I've taken responsibility. So he took responsibility and said, I'll fix it. And he did. We all know he did.
Now, you see, to say he did, I mean, it's arguable, and I'll tell you why I say it's arguable. My father has a small hotel.
Right.
I have a small ad agency. My brothers and sisters have small businesses. Most of us had to buy generators. So my understanding is he imported the equipment. He did the contracts to get the equipment.
Yes.
But we did not get out of darkness.
Because we are not generating revenue to run the equipment. But if you have to travel to, say, Kumasi, and the means
for transport is there.
Is a vehicle that I've provided you. I don't need, as a responsible person, I don't need to continue fueling you to go to Kumasi.
So it is understood. He acquired whatever, or he obtained whatever is necessary to end Dumso.
He's installed
but Dumso people only saw the Dumso end when he was out of power.
Yes, it's at that point, and
So he must be given credit for getting all the equipment.
For the equipment.
Yeah,
and I remember,
why didn't he just get the lights on before
the lights were on? I remember the former majority leader in one of his interviews saying that John Mahama solved Dumsor before he exited. The issue was the generation capacity, and he had dealt with it. But the expenditure in running it's on the government to generate the needed revenue to run the system.
So right now, people can say the last election may have been about Dumsor and the last two elections, and then the very last one more about the economy. What is this election about, and how do you think your candidate will fare?
This elections is about the economy, it's about impunity, the massive corruption and scandals breaking out every day, and the kind of hardships that have been pushed on people. People have lost their jobs, they've lost their earnings and their savings, and all kinds of things. So there is a mix, and there is anger and rage, in people. So the elections will actually be an expression of disapproval in the way that the current government and its party has run this country. It's a more of the people's mood for change. They want to have.
But is that just change? Is that change? Is that just change from Adjei-Barwuah, or is that change for a desire for Mahama? That's the question.
Yes, they've compared. They've compared the period of Mahama's leadership, his administration, and what has happened ever since. And they realize that whatever was put out there to cause that election upset was something that they really didn't have to have done that, to have changed the leadership at the time.
Thank you very much. Honorable Akwesi Opon-Ofosu, advisor to the United Nations on Local Government, former Minister of State, and the longest-serving district chief executive in Ghana, our motherland. Thank you very much. Don't go away, because when we come back, a brilliant diplomat, former ambassador for Ghana to the United States of America, former ambassador for Ghana to Singapore, and former ambassador of Ghana to Japan, is going to be with us. Stay with Master of the Game, only on CTV. This Monday from 10 a.m. to 12 noon, the discerning audience, the knowledgeable, the stylish, and the classy get together to enjoy Master of the Game. Master of the Game brings you distinguished personalities, leaders, achievers, captains of industry, innovators, masterful storytellers, creators, and entertainers. All hosted by a master of the game. His Royal Blackness, KKD, the finest. Catch Master of the Game on CTV with special guest, former ambassador of Ghana to Japan, to Singapore, and to the USA, His Excellency Barfuor Adjei-Barwuah, Governance and Public Policy Analyst, former UN Special Advisor on Local Authorities, and former Minister of State, Honorable Akwesi Opon-Ofosu. Oh yes, nuggets of inspiration and delightful treats for your enjoyment. This Monday from 10 a.m. to 12 midday. Whether you love power, money, beauty, or fame, there is so much to learn from Master of the Game. Only in the place to be. The coolest channel, CTV. Hello, Ghana. My name is Dakwa, Kwesi Che Dakwa, and I'm delighted to tell you a beautiful story. For every young person in Ghana looking to work in radio, television, or online, this is a great opportunity for you. Welcome to Class Media Group. Class Media Group, with one TV station, 9 radio stations throughout the country, and one great online portal, is taking on new hires as interns. Interns to shadow great personalities and train for a job and career ahead. All you have to do is apply to this below. Let's go straight to our head of human capital and culture. Whether you want to work in radio production, radio presenting, television production, television presenting, or working to write and post online, Class Media Group is the place to be. This is KKD. See you soon.
Your election strong room is here again with the most comprehensive election coverage.
The moment to choose between reset, upgrade, and the others. We are your trusted source to give you a comprehensive coverage.
And Class Media Group is your most reliable and trusted source to give you the best analysis.
We've put together a strong team of reporters across all constituencies to bring you the breaking news.
Experienced presenters for all the unbiased in-studio discussions with very knowledgeable experts.
Police stations are Hodwa. Our Ghana for Nana. Yebenya Mre. Near Sonisu Crotin. I'm a Muati. Near the Somo.
And the anybody about one chi. Na ni ebe pie wa bato mu bia no yamamu hunu.
Kaya ho ewa kra 100.5 FM, Class 91.3 FM, CTV, Ghana's #1 television, and after classfmonline.com. Ya affiliate stations are would in which your Ghana have bia no on Sabekaye.
Abato mre. Sabe so hu abato no nsu sanso a. Koso follow Class Media Group. Your election strong group.
This Monday from 10 a.m. to 12 noon, the discerning audience, the knowledgeable, the stylish, and the classy get together to enjoy Master of the Game. Master of the Game brings you distinguished personalities, leaders, achievers, captains of industry, innovators, masterful storytellers, creatives, and entertainers, all hosted by a Master of the Game.
His Royal Blackness, KKD, the finest.
Catch Master of the Game on CTV with special guest, former Ambassador of Ghana to Japan, to Singapore, and to the USA, His Excellency Barfuor Adjei-Barwuah, Governance and Public Policy Analyst, former UN Special Advisor on Local Authorities, and former Minister of State, Honorable Akwesiopo Mfusu. Oh yes, nuggets of inspiration and delightful treats for your enjoyment. This Monday from 10 a.m. to 12 midday. Whether you love power, money, beauty, or fame, there is so much to learn from Master of the Game. Only in the place to be. The coolest channel, CTV.
Abato mre asenso enti amanefo ahyase ebapro obafo mepo esane monchemonka ibi betwitwa suo esane ne kokoro mutinti ewie no ni bedi won kasefo mutintiman titiru a obese ne se yanto abama won na wonya akwanya wayiwo manga na hyebre ne so adihunu akadontediem de se mamu mapom bigina obisa efimre santini empo afi apema hankro aduokuru bienu a wo hyase to aba nizuzu aso pame ananya bompisuya yobusuya eno makasa wa bana boso emena siaso to osia ba yeche ye bedi hu papa enunti na CTV ahihye dwumadi a yato ne din de candidates ye beso ye behwehwe senkrofo ya eba ba gye nsem to me nyina sa wo pra pa ma hye bebe ana wo pra be ye mampani ni ye bisa wo nsem ye kunu mani so de kunu no mtimadwe wonu a epre ya wo san ba preview yamemwa bu hu akonta ansa na yasem yim nempo nya wonya apanya nso pese okon ye bisa na ni so de na ye gina so e de ato aba esan se okokuru ti
CTV, Ghana's #1.
This Monday from 10 a.m. to 12 noon, the discerning audience, the knowledgeable, the stylish, and the classy get together to enjoy Master of the Game. Master of the Game brings you distinguished personalities, leaders, achievers, captains of industry, innovators, masterful storytellers, creators, and entertainers, all hosted by a master of the game.
His Royal Blackness, KKD, the finest.
Catch Master of the Game on CTV with special guest, former ambassador of Ghana to Japan, to Singapore, and to the USA, His Excellency Barfuor Adjei-Barwuah, governance and public policy analyst, former UN special advisor on local authorities, and former Minister of State, Honorable Akwisio Fusu. Oh yes, nuggets of inspiration and delightful treats for your enjoyment. This Monday from 10 a.m. to 12 midday. Whether you love power, money, beauty, or fame, there is so much to learn from Master of the Game. Only in the place to be. The coolest channel, CTV. This Monday from 10 a.m. to 12 noon, the discerning audience, the knowledgeable, the stylish, and the classy get together to enjoy Master of the Game. Master of the Game brings you distinguished personalities, leaders, achievers, captains of industry, innovators, masterful storytellers, creatives, and entertainers, all hosted by a master of the game.
His Royal Blackness, KKD, the finest.
Catch Master of the Game on CTV.
Hello, welcome back to Master of the Game, the program where we bring you the movers, the shakers, the icons, and the legends. I am so happy to have a distinguished gentleman who I have admired for so many years. More so because he used to be the chief executive of the Ghana Tourism Board, which is now the Ghana Tourism Authority. And as you very well know, I have a very keen interest in culture and tourism. He also served as Ghana's ambassador to Japan, then Ghana's ambassador to Singapore, and Ghana's ambassador to the United States of America. It looks like he gets the pick of the pack whenever he has to go out to serve Ghana. Welcome to the studio, His Excellency Barfuor Adjei-Barwuah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Nada na why fast in KKD.
I can maybe because because we hope na me akokra mama betra ha
I am so happy to have joined you in the United States at one of your celebrations. We took a very beautiful picture with you and your good wife.
Oh, okay.
And I actually wore this suit today because that's the suit I wore in that picture.
Oh.
And you are in your resplendent kente cloth.
Well, the suit is still suiting you very well.
Okay, but you're always a dapper gentleman. I want to start by asking about your childhood. Your childhood,
well,
Ambassador.
I grew up in Kumasi, in the Tipihinis Palace. My dad was a chief, and an important one. And because of that, I always had access to go to the Tipihinis Palace because when I was there at the right age, I was always my father's walking stick. And I had the privilege of meeting the then Asante Notu for Prepper II.
Wow.
Yeah. And one of the joys I had was that every time we went to the palace, the Asante gave me pocket money. And then there were times when, for political reasons and such, Utumfo came to see my dad nights, 1 day a week. That was when the NLM was in its
the National Liberation Movement.
Yes, in its formative stage. So again, I had the opportunity of meeting him at close quarters. You know, normally park the car elsewhere. Then I went and walked him into the Tipihinis Palace.
So essentially, these were Nicodemus meetings.
Yeah,
they were meetings that people were not supposed to know about.
Exactly.
What exactly?
Maybe it's now that I'm making people know that such
Yeah, but that's historical, that's
sure.
why. So what exactly were they discussing? Did you peep on
listen? The rule was that I take him in, and then I go out. When they are through, they come and call me. I take him back to the car. But sometimes I had to do some kind of errand work between him, my dad, and Barfuor.
Barfuor was actually the linguist to the king.
Right. So if they needed to transfer some information to him or whatever, then I had to do that. Barfuor was just 2 buildings away from.
So you became an ambassador at a very early age.
Well, I suppose one had to learn how to be discreet. One had to learn how to be circumspect. One had to learn to be supremely confidential. Yeah. So maybe that was part of the unstructured training that I had, growing up. Yeah. And once that is over, then whatever it is that they had to talk about, they talk about. And I think there was a time that, strangely enough, Asantehene and I fell out.
How?
Because when I went to Prempeh College Form 1, this lady who was also part of the family in the palace brought some white man, there, and I went out to do the normal thing secondary school boys do. And when I got home, my dad was sitting under this pear tree that was in the middle of the palace with this white man. And, then come and interpret between me and this fellow. For about 10, 15 minutes, not a single word I said was either understood or the guy cared to react to. He never even said, So after a while...
You mean the white man?
Yes.
Was he European? Was he American?
Well, I later on learned, when I was in Form 2, when we started learning French, that the guy was French. So the English I was talking about was nothing to him at all.
Interesting.
Yeah. But when I knew when that happened, that the evening that the king will come, they will talk about it, because he and my dad were good friends. And then true, when I brought him in, I decided that I would wedge outside the door just to find out. That was the first topic. So I overheard, him saying, well, if that is the case, then let him go and learn some trade and leave secondary school so that he can run his life, with some.
Who made that suggestion?
Barfuor did. But then, Monday when we went to the palace, and he did the usual, gave me pocket. So I've been giving pocket money at home today, so I think it's all right.
Oh, you were so wrong.
3 times.
You were so wrong.
I refused. So as soon as we left the palace, my dad said, look, if that is the foolish, training that they are giving you at Prempeh College, then you have to leave the school. So
you turned down
but Nana
an honorarium from an elder?
Nana had told you that you should take me out of the school. So what do you mean? He said, I said, but on Friday I overheard. I have told you never to listen into conversations and such. And anyway, he doesn't give me instructions. I'm the one who gives him instructions. So he cannot say that I should take you out of school. So anyway, that whole week, Nana have been giving pocket money was a refrain. So on the Friday night when he came, you know why your person is not taking your money. This is the issue.
Wow.
So they called me in. And Otufa, I have heard that
You're upset with me.
So please, that isn't the case. Kojo just told me that this is what you said. But anyway, this is what I said. So he told me what he said, which apparently I misinterpreted. So he told me that if anybody says anything about you and you didn't like it, ask the person, and ask it very emphatically, because you cannot run around with wrong impressions.
With your kind permission, let me interject here.
Yeah.
In a can, we have a saying, "Nea ote ante."
Yeah.
Nea ote nso ehu asekyere. So the one who heard did not really hear,
Yeah.
and the one who actually heard did not know how to explain it.
Exactly.
So whatever you hear anybody say, if you're uncertain, when in doubt, leave it out. But if you really want to find out what is behind all the clout, ask, and you shall be told.
Yeah.
Continue,
So
sir.
I thanked him for the advice. Put his hand in his pocket.
And
I can tell
it
you
continued.
that this one, if he hadn't pulled his hand quickly, and I would have gone into the pocket myself to take the money. Yeah, but you know, for me, it was part of the amazing training that I had, you know, as a kid and as a youngster.
I saw a very handsome photograph of you. Beautiful ebony black hair with a line cut through it. And I asked that one of your children send it to me. It says, "Bisa daddy."
I suspect that it was probably one of the very first studio pictures I took.
When?
And this must have been probably in 1958.
And I must say, the suit you were wearing did not look like something you bought off the rack. It looked like a properly tailored suit. Your palm shell.
I used to have a brother who was an amazing tailor.
I thought so.
And he used to sew it, but I was more interested in the American slacks, jeans that he used to sew for me. And in fact, there was this one that he sewed for me. And no matter how it comes, I said, no, it's too loose.
Oh, you wanted to fit it?
Look.
Open your a guy,
I had this one that he made, and it was so tight that if I were going up the stairs, my bum hurts. It was that tight.
Oh my God!
So,
tell me about your years in school, high school, into university, and friends back in university.
Excuse me. As I said, I went to Prempeh College. Before then, I had spent about a month at this school at Adjei-Barwuah. My dad had a farm there. His third wife was the one taking care of it, so went to it. Then, because my dad was not too happy about me in school, because if I were in school somewhere, he comes to Kumasi, and he has lost his acolyte, you see. So he said that at that time, and indeed, there was a bit of bad harvest in that area that year. So he says I should come back to Kumasi. And I said no, because one of my stepbrothers was in school. I insisted I would also want to be in school. So he said, okay, he has a cousin somewhere in Droma, in the Barfuor region, who was a teacher. So he asked me and one of his nephews to go and live with him and go to school. We went for about maybe 3 months. My cousin was very lazy. He didn't want to do housework. But I was too tiny for them to insist on me doing housework. So early one morning, he just packed our things in a pillowcase. And he marched me to come to Nkuranza to take a vehicle to Kumasi. When we got to Kumasi, apparently, my dad had come to Kumasi, but he had gone to Pakuso, that is our hometown, and he was expected in the evening. But after about 8 o'clock, my mom said, well, most probably he's spending the night, so they should give his dinner to us. The minute we started the dinner,
he appeared. Oh my. Oh, my.
So he asked us why we were in Kumasi. And I said, well, Martin said that we had to come there. And my dad said, okay, if I've come to Kumasi, then it means I have quit school. So he didn't do anything about my school anymore. Just did his business, did whatever he could do, and then left. And when he left back to the farm, my uncle came to Kumasi. I said, but your dad said you were in school. And I said, well, this is what happened. So,
did he consider you a truant?
Well, he thought maybe I didn't have an interest in it, or maybe because of his own preferences with how he wanted to relate with me, it was in his interest not to encourage me to go again.
So you'd be his walking stick?
Correct. So my uncle said, in that case, let's go to Pakoso and go to school. So I went to Pakoso to start class 1 again. So in that 1 year, I went to 3 schools.
Wow.
Now, when I finished that year, and in that case I had to come to class 2, my dad decided that in that case I should come to Kumasi and go to school. So he asked my older brother to go and register me in one of the schools. And in fact, he insisted that he registered me at Oshumasi because my dad's cousin's former wife lived there, so she could take, good care of me or something like that. That's fine. So I went to Oshumasi. And I always remember, because when my uncle registered me in school, he registered me as Anthony Barnier, which was my uncle's name. So when we were leaving, my brother asked me to hold on. Then he came back home and asked my dad, should I register him as Anthony Barnier? My dad just stared at him and said, stupid. Has Kojo Barnier told you that is his kind?
Now, with your kind permission, let me just quickly interject here because I want people to understand the intricacies of the Akan culture. In the Akan culture, the son is very close to the mother and the daughter very close to the father, correct?
Sure.
Now, what happens is that because of the closeness of the son to the mother, the brothers of the mother want to claim the nephew as their own. In fact, in the Akan culture, we bequeath our property to our nephews, not our sons. And there's a whole story to that, and I will share that story with you when I have a conversation with lawyer Anoche Frimpong, with whom I'll be speaking later. So this whole thing about his uncle taking him to school and trying to register him in the uncle's name, instead of the father, who is the progenitor's name, it's something that happens very often in the Akan culture. What would have happened if you had been registered as Anthony Barnier and Daddy found out?
I suppose I would have gone through life with Anthony Barnier, even though I was born Kabreji. Yeah. So anyway, my dad was a very sharp guy.
But would there have been bad blood between Dad and your uncle?
I seriously don't think so, because see, my dad was a very interesting person. Besides the fact that he was in the palace as a linguist, and also he was head of the executioner class, which basically meant, yes, Barfuor. So obviously, he was always very careful on things. So I don't think there would have been any altercation between the two of them. But I believe that my uncle himself might have advised himself to have my name changed. Yeah.
This is the dynamics of power.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
And, my dad was the kind of guy that a policeman told a commander at the Central Police Station, please, you don't cross that chief. Because during the NNM time, my dad was responsible for the welfare of the so-called action troopers. They were always being picked up, and he was always going to the police station and he normally walks in there. They said that you have brought the few of my boys I'm busy going to the palace, so release them so that I can go.
That's softly.
Yes.
And it will get done.
Because you see, my dad's personality was something else, so people didn't argue with him. And
your dad had power.
He exercised it very judiciously.
So what do you think of this Ashanti proverb that says, if power is for sale, sell your mother to obtain it. Once you get the power, there are so many ways of getting her back.
Well, it is a particularly wise position that existed in the Ashanti culture. Because, yes, you use power judiciously, but if you use it judiciously, you will get everything else that you want. You don't have to use power just going bashing on people's heads, no. Because if you know how to, use it, it is always to the benefit of everybody else. And then, of course, it is to your advantage to be seen as somebody who makes things happen. Yeah, and
not just grabs wealth for themselves.
Precisely. Because I think that is where leadership sits. And I think the problem that we have had, in the country for quite some time, is the fact that people equate post-holding with leadership. But the two are very different. And partly because of that, that is why you have some of the difficulties we have had for a while.
When we come back, we'll be talking about the differences between post-holding, appointeeship, and leadership with the distinguished His Excellency Barfuor Adjei-Barwuah. But also know that we are streaming live on Facebook at MyCTVGH. That's MyCTVGH. We're also streaming live on Accra 100.5 FM. And then we're streaming live on Class 91.3 FM. We're also streaming live on YouTube, MyCTVGH, and live on radio Class 91.3 FM. This is Master of the Game, where we bring you the movers, the shakers, the icons, and the legends. And I am with His Excellency Barfuor Adjei-Barwuah. We'll be right back after this.
Abatoɔ mmere asan aso nti amanfoɔ ahyɛseɛ ɛbɔ aporo ɔbɛfo mepɔ ɛsane mɔnkyemɔnka ebi betwitwa suo ɛsane ne ɔkokoro mutinti ɛwie no ne bedi wɔn kasefoɔ mu tintiman tipiru a wɔbɛsɛn ne sɛ yɛnto aba ama wɔn na wonya akwanya wɔyi wɔn man Ghana hyɛbrɛ ne nsuade hunu a aka dontodie mu deɛ sɛ mamu mapɔmia bigyina hɔ bisa wo efimre santini empo afe apema hankro aduokuru mienu a wɔhyɛ aseɛ to aba nsusu aso pame ananya wɔmpesua wɔbusua ɛno wakasa wabara bɔso ɛmena se aso to wɔse aba yɛ nkyɛn yɛbɛde hu papa ɛno nti na CTV ahyehyɛ dwumadi a yɛto ne din de candidate yɛbɛso wɔ yɛbɛhwehwɛ sɛ nkurɔfoɔ kuyi a ɛba bɛgye wo nsɛm tumi nyinaa sɛ wɔpra kɔ mmarahyɛ bedwa ana wɔpra bɛyɛ mampani ne yɛbisabisa wɔn nsɛm yɛhunu mani so ade hunu no ntirim adwe wɔn a ɛpre yɛ a wɔsan bɛpre bio yɛmɛmma bu ho akonta ansa na yɛsɛ ma bio na mpo yɛwo nya apanya nso pɛ sɛ ɔkɔɔ no yɛbisa no mani so ade na yɛgyina so ɛde ato aba ɛsan sɛ ɔkɔkoro ti
CTV, Ghana's #1.
Hello, Ghana. My name is Dakwa, Kwesi Che Dakwa, and I'm delighted to tell you a beautiful story. For every young person in Ghana looking to work in radio, television, or online, this is a great opportunity for you. Welcome to Class Media Group. Class Media Group With 1 TV station, 9 radio stations throughout the country, and 1 great online portal, is taking on new hires as interns. Interns to shadow great personalities and train for a job and career ahead. All you have to do is apply to this below. Let's go straight to our head of human capital and culture. Whether you want to work in radio production, radio presenting, television production, television presenting, or working to write and post online, Class Media Group is the place to be. This is KKD. See you soon. Wherever you're catching our sound and images from, whether you're catching us streaming live on Facebook, MyCTVGH, or Accra 100.5 FM, or Class 91.3 FM, or right here at CTV on television, or YouTube at MyCTVGH, you are with the special ones on the program Master of the Game. This is a program where we bring you the movers and shakers, the icons and the legends. And I am so delighted to have a great guest with me. I had a few comments come through directly to me that says, tell His Excellency that he speaks so beautifully.
Oh,
where did he get his elocution lessons?
I don't know. Maybe through the normal schooling that we all went through. I've never gone for special elocution lessons, nor have I even tried.
But you worked with linguists from when you were a little boy.
Yeah, and you know, maybe some of the phraseology and whatnot would come from them, you know, because and sometimes some of them can be very cutting.
Give me an example.
Well, a boy went to the Queen Mother's farm to pluck a pineapple. And he was there, you know, eating the pineapple on the farm when he was arrested. This was Asante Hima's. So they took him to the police station. In those days, the Asante had his own judicial system.
Yeah, and Ahimfie police, as we called it.
And then they asked him. He went for the pineapple. Yes. And then, yes. You have no respect. You couldn't go to the Queen Mother's farm and pluck a pineapple and eat it. Give him 3 months in jail. Now, that court was being run by my dad and this one chief. You know, they were assessors in the court. So the poor boy started crying. I was in court that day because I went with my dad sitting, you know, by his feet.
3 months
so,
for stealing the Queen Mother's pineapple from her farm.
So my dad asked the guy, you actually plucked the pineapple from the farm? Yes. And you were in the farm eating the pineapple. You had no intention of going to sell it. And I was so hungry. So I immediately got a stone, you know, broke it open, and I started eating. And when the police came, you know, and picked me up, so I said, okay, the next time you are hungry, and you think the only thing you can do is to go and pluck pineapple from the Queen's farm, go to that police station and tell them that you are hungry and you have seen a pineapple, and therefore you want to go and pluck it. Just don't go and pluck it. It constitutes stealing. Okay, just let him go.
Oh.
And the other chief was so livid. So when the guy got out and all, I said, now, Barfuor, why? I have already sentenced. No, you didn't sentence the person. You basically destroyed his life. And anyway, he wasn't going to sell the pineapple. But let me ask you, if he had stolen the whole farm, what would you have said? He should be shot. The conversation ended there. Yeah. But it is that kind of thing that sometimes it nudges on your head and you relate to it in certain different circumstances.
So the hungry man who picks a piece of fruit so he may not starve and die, must not be punished as though he has stolen goods to go and sell to enrich himself. Mm-hmm. That's wise.
Well, that's one of these things that you can call defensible offense. You know, so.
Defensible offense. I like that. Defensible offense. So I want to come to the matter of appointeeship and leadership. Just because one is appointed because they caught the eye of the king or the president or the leader does not necessarily make them a leader, you say.
No.
So show me, who is the one who is merely appointed and who is the one who is truly a leader?
You see, as for appointeship, it is essentially post-holding. Somebody, for some reason, says you are responsible for making sure that this studio is clean. At the time of the appointment, most of the time, they probably wouldn't know if you've even ever seen a broom or a vacuum cleaner or what have you before. The assumption is that you will learn and apply it to the job. When it comes to leadership, it has something to do with, one, your own presentation. It comes with sometimes just your personality. It comes with your willingness and ability to learn. And then it has a whole lot to do with your relationship with people. Because there is no way you can lead any group of people if for some reason or the other they think you want to think for them all the time. They think you don't respect them. They think probably you even don't understand the issues for which they are supposed to be following you. And then they also you have to make sure they believe that your leadership position is not something that you have purchased. It's not something that you think you are entitled to because of birth and all that. You ought to make it possible for people to know that if you got to the river, somehow you would manage to figure out where you cross, assuming there's no bridge. So most of the time,
if you got to the river, somehow you would be able to find out how to cross, assuming there's no bridge.
That's
so
right.
You can lead them across.
Precisely. So, because all that would make them develop a certain confidence in you, a certain belief that they are not putting their lives in danger simply because you are either not knowledgeable or you are just incompetent. But some people think.
They have a term for that. Unfortunately, we don't seem to have it in Asante Twi. They say Simpapenin.
I say Simpapenin, it means, I don't know if it's directly related to Winneba, which is Simpa. Yeah, but Simpapenin, it basically says, he is just there. People recognize him as a leader, but nobody cares about his leadership. That is the Simpapenin. Always ends up taking the wrong decisions. Yeah. So I think there is a certain intrinsic something about leadership that ought to be within a person, or a person for some reason managed to grab it, imbibe it from all kinds of environments and such.
Are leaders born? Are they made through upbringing or education or socialization?
Some of them are born. Others come into it by way of training. Some come into it by way of experience. Because sometimes if 10 of us are in the streets and there is some kind of melee, it just so happens that somebody might say, look, we have to do this and do this otherwise. Somehow or the other, it's a natural gift maybe that person has. Or maybe it's something that he had been studying by way of relating to other people. Yeah. But it isn't everybody who can be a leader. You know, most people, and especially in politics, some people have decided that winning an election makes you a leader. It doesn't. And then on top of that, even in our circumstances, the way certain people win elections, because I, for one, I have grown now to unfortunately believe that people don't vote for certain people because they either know they can deliver on their own interests or their needs or what have you. But people purchase the vote. So when it comes to that, it means that even if your representative is not doing the job, he probably also has the idea that, look, my friend, I bought the vote, so why are you tormenting me with expecting me to do something or what have you? So leadership has a certain kind of intrinsic or natural qualities that not everybody has. Yeah. Because sometimes it even has something to do with the way you talk to people. You know, any good leader should never say that, oh, no, that man, I can't work with him. You can't. Because even if for some reason you can't, you don't open your mouth and say that I can't work with him. You know, you may probably in that case find some, because you may recognize that he has some qualities.
Exactly.
So you find a way of utilizing him without you having some kind of a regular, diurnal, relationships with him. Yeah. Now that is what leadership is about.
So, one of the most controversial companies to lead in Ghana is our biggest communication enterprise called Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. I'm made to understand you had a stint there in your youthful years. Tell me about it.
Yes. When I came back from the States in 1972, there was a gentleman at broadcasting called Neo.
Neo?
Yeah. Who apparently was the person responsible for this program called Youth Forum. And what it was meant to do was to get the views of youngsters and whatnot on all kinds of subjects. And I think they were losing viewership. So a friend of mine brought to talk to me about doing the program. And I was never very interested in that kind of exposure. Because I, for one, I've always felt that I should be more or less the cool dude.
The cool dude, indeed.
I don't make too much noise, but I make things happen.
That's right.
So when he came to talk to me, I said I'll have to think about it. That time, my mom had come to visit. My mom doesn't understand English. Neo and I were talking English and all that, but I think she could sense what was going on. But not before then, I had been approached to become a member of the charter committee.
Okay.
Yeah. So I told Neo that I'll think about it. So when he left, my mom said, no, but that man's request is a bit better and safer than the ones that the soldiers are asking you to go and do.
To go and do the charter committee.
So I agreed to do it. At the same time, I also went on the charter committee.
You still did?
Yeah, oh yes, and I had a lot of trouble with the chairman. But, so that was how I got onto a youth forum. And I think, fortunately or unfortunately, GBC was the only channel.
Yep.
So whether you like me or not, you still have to watch me twice a week because we did the program and it was repeated.
It's interesting. We have something we say back in England about, I'd say if anybody is on television, after 2 weeks, they'll get fan mail. So if you like, put a green bottle on television for 2 weeks, you'll get fan mail. But I'm sure you did very well.
Yeah, so I hosted the program for 3 years.
Wow.
And when I went
that was back in the years of the magnificent emperor, Mike Egan.
Yes. Yeah, Mike Egan.
He will be coming on this show, you know.
Oh, he will be.
Oh, I should have arranged for you and Mike to meet.
Yeah, tell him I said hello.
I will. I will.
You know,
Mr. Mike Egan will be here.
So I did the youth forum for 3 years.
Okay.
And I quit youth forum when I went to the tourist board.
Okay, so you seem to have just a very easy life in your career, because broadcasting, then managing the tourism enterprise of Ghana. What was happening with the tourist board back in those years?
Well, when I went to the tourist board, in my view, very little was happening. In fact, Accra, for instance, as a city of this size, in my view, was just dead. So I thought that part of the promotion is to get something bubbling in the city. And I asked my PR person to go and talk to this brass band in Kwanyaku.
Kwanyaku Brass Band?
Yes. And then I got somebody to go and talk to the brass band at Esunyu. Strangely enough, there was this popular brass band in the Ashanti region.
That we didn't even know of.
Yeah. So the two of them agreed that they will come and play in Accra. So I told them, at that time I was trying to popularize Labadi Beach, you know, as a prelude to developing La Palm Royal. So he did go to Kwanyaku, and Esunyu also agreed to play. Esunyu was supposed to be playing from the north, and then Kwanyaku from the west. The two of them were supposed to meet in the center of Accra, which at that time was the old Parliament House. And then the two of them together will play to Labadi Beach.
Fantastic.
So when I asked the guy to, you know, get together with me for us to plan it, so he just said, so where should we go? Where should I see you? I said, meet me there.
Meet me there?
And that's
where the name came from?
That's right. So we met at Labadi Beach. And arranged virtually everything, you know.
Oh my God, I thought Meet Me There came later on, because I remember working with Adjei-Barwuah and a couple of people. We did a few Meet Me There programs.
Yeah.
And in fact, the big Meet Me There, the biggest one that was organized, I was the only attraction.
I see.
I was the only one playing music and rapping.
I see.
Interesting.
That is how Meet
So
Me
you
There
are
started.
Mr. Meet Me There?
Yes. I remember going to see somebody in London when I relocated because of the guardroom business and the rolling school. And,
oh, you're one of the people who fled after the rolling school?
Yeah, I was in the guardroom for 12 days. I went for investigation for almost a year.
What for?
Well...
For being a cool dude?
No, most probably. No, for openness. I wrote to resign. And as soon as I resigned, they picked me up.
Oh, they wanted you to be at post still?
Yeah. And the way things were going, I didn't think I could cope with the kind of administration and all. Yeah. So,
you're not somebody who likes belligerence.
You see, belligerence has a certain finesse to it that yields results. You see, the pow, that doesn't yield results at all. You want somebody to do something, get the person to appreciate the need to do it, and let the person do it. But immediately you give knocks, wash it. The person has an attitude. The minute your back is turned, he won't do the washing, you know. So I put in a resignation, picked me up for 12 days in the guard room, about a year of investigation, and they gave me back my passport. And the person who initially came to arrest me just calmly told me on the side that if I were you, I would travel, because they will pick you up again, and I don't think this time you'll be that lucky. So as soon as he said that, and he said that without turning his head or looking at me on, the first thing I did was to go to Ghana Airways and buy a ticket. And within some
What about the family?
Well, at that time...
You had a family then? A young family?
At that time I had a wife and a child. So I sort of left them. Subsequently, my son was brought. My wife was working in the civil service. And I became a single parent, in London.
I went through that too.
Later on, they brought my daughter. So I was in Britain for, close to...
Where in England were you?
Oh, I lived in Dulwich.
Fantastic. Dulwich Village?
Not the village. This part of
Dulwich Village, the Sikafongo?
Oh, yeah. I couldn't afford it. But I was close to the place. But I had some very good jobs, so I could manage.
Not too much time we have, but I definitely want to move on to how you became an ambassador, because you went to England, worked in England, raised your kids in England, saved quite a bit of money, invested in property back home. I don't want us to go through all the details, that's why I've closed that here. But how then did you now, the man who had worked on radio, the man who had worked helping to curate Ghana's tourism to promote it locally and internationally, then become an ambassador?
Well, whilst I was in London, I helped organize the opposition elements. At that time, politics was still banned in Ghana. So we organized ourselves around a group called UPPI, United Progress International.
What year was this?
When did I go to Britain? Can't even remember. It's such a long time ago. Yeah, somewhere around there. And then, whilst we were trying to do this, fortunately, the ban on politics was
lifted.
And then the party was formed. So we turned the name UPPI into what we have today.
NPP.
NPP. And I was first the treasurer, then the secretary. Then when Mr. Adjei-Barwuah decided he was coming back home to contest, I became the president. So chairman. So I was chairman for the NPP for...
In the UK?
In the UK for about almost 10 years.
Wow.
Until Kufuor won the election.
So you had met President Kufuor, Kufuor a number of times?
I used to meet him all the time because to a certain extent we are family. And then when the people who were vying for positions used to come to London, I usually organized meetings for them and all that and all that. So I knew all of them.
So what was your first appointment under President Kufuor?
Ambassador to Japan.
That is a good position. People would kill for that.
Well, when we came for his inauguration, I didn't know that my executives had decided they were going to ask him to make me High Commissioner to London. So
they wanted to keep you in England.
Yes.
And it's actually the highest post for...
Yeah, probably as far as we're a Commonwealth country.
Yes.
Yeah. So we went to visit him in the office. And then they suddenly said this to him. And President Kufuor is a very smart fellow. So he says, well, you put me in a difficult position. Suppose I had even earmarked somebody else. Then what do I do? And then you haven't even asked him if it's something that he could do and all that. And as soon as he said, I told him that as for being High Commissioner in London, and there's no way I would do it. Simply because I have been organizing all these people. Suddenly, I'm High Commissioner. Somebody comes to the office to look for me. Oh, sorry, the High Commissioner today can say, "Oi, Aquano."
We're changing the phone number. That's how they say. We're changing the phone number.
So as for London, no way. Yeah. So he asked me to go to Japan. And
highest point in Japan?
Say that again.
Your highest point in Japan?
Well, when I got there, the Japanese had cancelled a loan that they had given to Ghana because they said, Kufuor said he was going HIPIC. And according to Japanese law, they couldn't loan money to somebody who says, I can't pay my bills.
Yeah.
So I said, no, we didn't say we couldn't pay. We just want the serialization amended. They said, no. We said we couldn't pay. So I asked to see the governor of the Japan Bank for International Development. Took about 3 months for that appointment to happen. 2 weeks before then, they told me he was busy, so I should see the deputy. I said, no, I'm not seeing any deputy. So finally, we met.
Asantini, oh, go and see the deputy as deputy.
Oh, Kwakosradi, and so on Tomatia. Who are a aquarium man? But now the man now the cotton. So we finally met. I went with my deputy and my secretary.
Yeah.
The guy comes in with a posse of 7 people. And he spoke for 21 minutes. And he closed every possible avenue for argument. So when he was through, I took my watch off my wrist, put it in front of me, because I decided I would speak for 21 minutes.
To match him?
Yes. So I did. And then when I was finished, I told him, if I were Japanese, I would speak exactly the same you spoke. So I don't bear you a grudge. But for the time I've been here, I've been reading Japanese law as it relates to loans and such. I haven't read anywhere which says if a person says he cannot pay his debt, you cannot also give the person a gift. So,
did you get a gift?
If you won't give us a loan, why don't you give it to us as a grant? The Japanese gave us the $89 million to build the Cape Coast Road.
Oh, yeah. Well done. Well done.
And at the time that I was there, Japan was exceptionally good to us.
You realize the importance of oratory at that point?
No, I don't know, because I don't suppose I consider myself as somebody who does or who has, that kind of facility.
Time is never on anybody's side because it's constantly running. But in America, there is something you did that made us all very proud. You managed to organize for senators to come to Ghana.
Oh, yes. I decided that because of the anniversary, we termed the year of return, I decided that at least the black Americans who are in Congress, could be asked to come and visit us, see what we have, and then try to promote the country and such. So we arranged to meet.
But there was a sour point.
Pardon?
There was a sour point.
Oh, the sour point bit was that, one, Mrs. Pelosi, for instance, a white woman, but leader of Congress, decided she also wanted to come. So she came. Then we come into this country, and they say this is where Ghana mismanages a lot of these things, and sometimes purely on, personal grounds or something.
Parochial interests?
Yeah. We came here.
And pettiness?
Nobody at any point asked the ambassador, so these people, what should we talk to them about? What could we ask them for? Then Mrs. Pelosi was given the floor of Parliament. Nobody ever gave me an indication that this was going to happen. And on the day, when I went to Parliament, either by design or something, everybody made it impossible for me to get to the floor of Parliament to be with the group that I brought.
Oh, no.
So in the end, I just used some gravitas and went to sit in the public gallery. And it was when Mrs. Pelosi was going to speak that she asked for me because she hadn't seen me then. So I got up in the gallery and I said, I'm here overlooking, for your interest. And then, she made this.
Whose interest did it serve that you who had done the work to get the senators here
could not be with them?
Well, I wouldn't know, but I hope you are aware that this is the one country where nobody ever writes a note, let alone a letter, to anybody saying, thank you for trying. Nobody. This country doesn't write thank you notes. They only write annoying inquiries. You know, so I wasn't particularly surprised. I wasn't particularly perturbed. But then when we went back, it's the note that Mrs. Pelosi wrote to me that I thought was fine.
Thank you very much, Honorable and His Excellency.
That's all right.
His Excellency. Barfuor. Oh my God. Interesting note to end on. Let's learn to be grateful for whatever comes our way. Thank you very much for joining us on the program Master of the Game. We will be back with more Master of the Games every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And we will learn the nuggets of inspiration and all the little treats that our guests share. Thank you very much, Ambassador Barfuor Adjei-Barwuah.
Thank you for having me.
This Monday from 10 a.m. to 12 noon, the discerning audience, the knowledgeable, the stylish, and the classy get together to enjoy Master of the Game. Master of the Game brings you distinguished personalities, leaders, achievers, captains of industry.